Welcome everyone to our Cultural Sector Community Call update today. We are so thankful that you're joining us. My name is Wendy Hassan. I am with the Cache Valley Center for the Arts in Logan, Utah, and delighted to be hosting you today. We do have a closed caption feature. If you're looking at your Zoom screen at the lower right, there is a closed caption button. You can click on that and then show subtitle, and you should be able to see the closed captioning for today's call. I'd like to give a great thank you to our many partners who make these calls possible. The Utah Department of Heritage and Arts, the Utah Division of Arts and Museums, the Utah Cultural Alliance, Utah Humanities, Utah Museums Association, and our many local arts agencies from across the state. A quick note, this will be our last meeting until August. We will take a couple of weeks off because we have 2 holidays in July, and it's for the beginning of the year for many of us, so it's a good chance to do a little introspection and return strong the first Monday in August. We'll look forward to seeing you again then. If you have questions, please put them in the question and answer section, and we anticipate many of you will today, and we're looking forward to hearing those. We will have a wonderful address from Senator Adams today. We're grateful that Senate President Stuart Adams will be our speaker, and then we'll have a quick update from Crystal Young Otterstrom on our survey and some update on our CARES funding that you may have heard about, so if you have questions on that, be prepared with those. And then we will have stories from the field with Paul Dourdan from the Covey Center for the Arts in Provo, Utah. So it is my pleasure now, and Senator Adams, if you'd like to share your audio with us, to introduce Senate President Stuart Adams. We are excited to have you today, and we were excited to have you last week, so the anticipation is high. We're delighted that you're able to join us. Senate President Stuart Adams is a lifetime resident of Davis County. He lives in Layton with his lovely wife, Susan. He's a partner in the Adams Company, which is a real estate construction and development firm in Kaysville. Before being elected to the Senate, he served 4.5 years in the Utah House of Representatives. He is the former chairman of the Utah Transportation Commission, currently chairman of the Military Installation Development Authority, and during his time representing the 22nd District, he has championed legislation to address religious freedoms, affordable energy, clean air, transportation, and prior to the time in his legislature, he served 9 years on the Layton City Council. So he has experience from city to legislature, transportation to military, and we're so grateful for that perspective. President Adams, thank you for your leadership during this difficult time. You've been very involved, active, and always a champion for our arts and culture sector. We're so grateful for that. And we'll turn the time over to you. So grateful to hear from you.
Thank you. Thank you for that introduction. Very kind, but it's great to be with you. And one of the reasons why I wasn't here last week is because we did have that special session, and I thought I might be able to have time Monday, but things kind of collapsed on us as we prepared for the special session I think everyone's aware of. And there was a lot going on, and we were trying to work out the funding for the state. We live in a great state. Utah has been recognized around the nation for the great things we do. But I always said that the thing that makes Utah great is just not that we have a great economy. It's not that we have great tax policy. It's not that we have, the lowest unemployment rate, or even as we deal with the COVID virus, that we're able to take care of and probably have the lowest fatality rate. All those things are great, but I always say it's kind of a holistic reason why Utah is great. And part of that is the cultural and arts aspect of Utah. As we think of the great things that are done, that the people come here maybe because of a good economy, but they stay because of the arts and the quality of life and the things that they enjoy from being in Utah. So I first want to start by saying thank you to everyone on this call for making Utah that great spot, and for actually helping our quality of life, and to be able to help us enjoy the things that we work hard to have, and to have that great opportunity that exists in Utah and make it such a wonderful spot. One of the reasons why Utah is a great spot is because we manage our affairs well. And if you remember the special session, we did some amazing things. In my opinion, most states are cutting budgets. they're reducing the budgets, and we've had to cut ours, and we felt it, and you're aware of what we've done. But with the way we've been able to take ongoing revenue during the good years and spend it on one-time expenses, we were able to stop those projects, and some of them were, the state office building, which you're all aware of, and other projects that we stopped, and those that we couldn't stop, we actually went out to the bond market and borrowed money. And because of our AAA bond rating, we were able to get 1.1%, which is amazing. But we took that ongoing money that we'd actually put in the prison and in higher ed buildings, and we used that money to actually fund the ongoing revenues needed in education and in social services. And we all know that our future has to do with our kids, and so we were able to actually give an increase in our WPU of 1.8%. If you add it to the growth money we used last December, we actually funded almost a 2.2% increase in education. That's pretty unusual for any state in these COVID period of times to be able to do. We also gave an increase in social services because we know that the demands that are coming from COVID are both physical and mental, and those type of challenges that we're facing as a state. We would have liked to, and we actually, our cuts were quite a bit less than what we'd anticipated, which is good news for everyone. One of the things that we are trying to do is we're trying to use the CARES money as meaningful as possible. And in the first legislative session, we actually committed $20 million of CARES money for agricultural grants, for $20 million for personal rental assistance, $40 million for some of the businesses that were actually shut and closed by the non-essential businesses that were hurt so significantly. But we also, last legislative session, we appropriated $8 million for cultural support, and some of you are aware of that, and $1 million for Multicultural Commission, which hopefully will help maintain this great quality of life that we have in Utah. I might want to say a couple of things, and again, I want to leave a few minutes for questions, but talking about the virus, the COVID-19, maybe some of you are aware, there was, I think, a little press story done on it, but I actually have COVID antibodies. I'm not sure when I actually got COVID or when I was exposed. But one thing I am glad about, and the one thing I do know that's important, is because I may not have known when I had COVID, it was really important that I wear a mask. And I've been fairly vigilant about doing that. And you've heard a lot about that lately, but I can't help but reemphasize that we're not wearing masks to try to protect ourselves. It may have some benefit for us, but because COVID is such a unique virus and that it affects people so differently. Some get a runny nose and don't even hardly know they have it, and others it becomes fatal. That we need to make sure that we try to protect those around us, especially the medically frail, and wearing a mask is a good way to do that. To give you a few statistics that you may have heard and may already know, but hopefully as I repeat them, they become more significant, is that 40 to 50% of our fatalities have happened in rest homes. Horrible thing. And almost 90% of the fatalities are from people in rest homes and those that are medically frail, those with kidney, with liver, with respiratory, pulmonary problems. Diabetes is a big one. And it almost doesn't matter what age. If you're medically frail, you have by far a higher probability of being in the hospital if you have those conditions than if you're not. And the statistic I use, if you're 18 to maybe 30, very unlikely if you're healthy, you're going to end up in a hospital. But if you're over 65 and you have simply a kidney disease, over 65, there's a 67% chance that you'll end up in the hospital. That's a stark contrast. And so I think we need to be very, very careful as we move forward. One of the ways we can keep our economy going is to keep COVID from spreading and becoming so fatal. And so again, I would encourage people to social distance, wash your hands, to wear masks, to do those things that we know slows that spread, so that our hospitals don't get overrun and we can actually maintain a great economy, which helps fund these great cultural programs we all love so much. So I'm gonna open it up for some questions. I could keep talking, but I don't want to continue on too much further. I'm sure somebody has questions.
That sounds wonderful. Well, let's start with the comment, perhaps. We love the reminder of the importance of wearing masks. And the Utah Cultural Alliance, for all of your information, has created some lovely graphic memes to remind us to wear masks, which we recognize is so important, especially in keeping that part of our sector open that involves people gathering. So we're grateful for the flexibility that we have in being able to be a little closer when wearing masks. So here's a question for you, President Adams. Will there be additional CARES funding available in the fall?
Yes, we've reserved just over $200 million, not knowing exactly what the new requirements will be. So yes, there will be additional CARES funding. Some of the things we've already done, I mentioned a few of them, but we actually allocated $1 million for government outreach. And one of the things that is most concerning to us is that people are not continuing to get their preventative care. I'm aware of several people who have stayed at home to stay safe, but they stayed at home and stayed too safe. And some of their medical conditions they haven't gone out to see a doctor for, and it's caused some significant challenges. In fact, most of the hospitals are reporting that those that are coming into the emergency room are coming in with more acuity, and that their admission rates into the hospital are actually increasing from those coming into the emergency room because of the lack of preventative care. So we need to keep focused on that. And but the answer to your question is yes. We're going to have additional funding for CARES. And again, if you remember, I didn't spend a lot of time on it. I thought I might get a few questions on how the cultural support grants are going to happen, but that money's been actually given to the governor's office of budget and management, to the finance department, and they're transferring that or working with the cultural arts group and Jill Love, and you've done such a great job in the past in actually providing a process for grants. We wanted to make sure that you had the ability to put the grant process together for this $8 million, and so it'll be done through your organization. I'm sure you'll be hearing more about it as those processes and criteria for the grants come about. But there will be additional funding, and hopefully we can help keep the economy going and help keep the great cultural arts program intact. We know there's a lot of challenges, and it's really financially being difficult for businesses and for those nonprofits. So we're trying to do our best.
Thank you so much. And we are so grateful for your support and for the attention our sector is receiving in these efforts. I want to let everyone know that Alyssa has posted the text for House Bill 5010, which has the language of that legislation, if anyone would like to peruse that. And as you mentioned, our organizations have a lot of impact on our state financially. And I'm wondering if there are other things we can do to help the legislature and the state in this time when we're trying to get the word out about things and public awareness, or other ways that we might be useful to you.
Well, yes, I look at this from a holistic approach, and I know that epidemiologists, they focus on COVID, and we all know the numbers, hopefully, that I just told you about, and we all understand the specific challenges that come with the medically frail. But we have to have, in my opinion, a holistic approach. We can't just stay at home and stay safe. We need to be able to have those that are medically frail stay home and stay safe. The rest of us need to get out and try to find a way to keep our economy going. And then we need to be concerned about the preventative care, and we need to find a way to be able to keep the things that we love so much, the arts programs going, and we need creative ways to have that happen. So we need this holistic approach of not just focusing on COVID, which is a lot of the challenges that we're having right now is that virus, but we also need to find a way to message and focus on keeping our economy going, keeping people taking care of themselves, both mentally with social. I mean, we all know that staying home sometimes gives a lot of challenges mentally and emotionally. And then part of the solution to that is you've seen lately, the Sports Commission has done some live events. Hopefully, as one of the motivations in this $8 million was to try to motivate the arts community to do some live events and to maybe give some of that money back to the community as maybe even some free events or some 2-for-1s, or to try to motivate people, but do it in a way that doesn't allow the virus to spread. So again, no one understands the holistic approach, what I call the not just the economic or the medical approach, but actually making sure that we take care of what makes Utah so great and makes us function, and that is the arts community. So thank you for doing that and appreciate your help.
Wonderful. What are you most looking forward to getting back to, Senator?
There's a lot of things. One of the things that I'm most looking forward to getting back to is actually doing things more with my family. I think we're social beings, and that interaction with other people and going to events is something I look forward to. So whether it's a trip to the zoo or a trip to aquarium or to Tuacahn or to some other cultural event, I'm actually looking forward to coming back and experiencing that more than on a Zoom call. I'm looking forward to maybe not doing as many Zoom calls.
I think you're not alone in that. Many of us are zoomed out. Grateful to have the ability to see each other at least, but looking forward to personal interaction again for sure. Okay, any further questions, everyone? Thank you. Thank you so much, Senator, and thank you for keeping us in mind and for helping us to be such a well-managed state and to deal with this crisis as well as we've been able to.
Well, again, thank you for doing what you do best, and that is making sure that not only one more time, our health and our finances are taken care of, but one of the reasons we're here is to be able to enjoy life, and the arts surely help us do that. So thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you. I couldn't agree more. It's what's giving me hope every week, as are these calls that I get so much strength from. So grateful to all of you who are joining us today. Thank you again, Senator Adams. I am very happy now to turn the time over to our leadership at the department and the division for an update on our CARES Act funding. I cannot even begin to express how grateful I am that we have the leadership in the department and in the division that we have now with Jill Love and Vicki Borns for their championship of us. And as Senator Adams talked about those cuts that are happening in the state, I know there's been great effort to protect the grants program, to protect the arts organizations in the state. And so I'll turn it over to, I think, is it Vicki that we're going to hear from? Spectacular.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. I just wanted to also thank the Utah Cultural Alliance for all their work and all the people out there who have been advocating for our sector. We really appreciate it. So as President Adams mentioned, there's been allocated through House Bill 5010 $9 million to the Division of Arts and Museums. This is for organizations that have budgets over $5 million, and it includes nonprofits, for-profits, and recreational organizations. I believe we have some information that Alyssa will put in the chat regarding the bill. Also, a link to the um, newsletter that I sent out on Thursday, which details some information from this. Also, the Governor's Office of Economic Development is also receiving some additional funds. They're receiving $25 million, which is available to nonprofit organizations as well as for-profit organizations. And I think we'll have there should be a link in the chat for information on these impacted business grant program, the COVID-19 Impacted Businesses Grant Program. There's also continues to be money for personal protective equipment, displaced worker grant program, outreach and education program, and both our Arts and Museums grant program and the GoEd program will be available by August 5th. We hope to have it sooner, but it will definitely be available on August 5th, and the details will be on our website. We are still working through a lot of the details, and we appreciate your patience and your diligence as we go through this process. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vicki. I don't envy the grant staff who are preparing yet another grant opportunity, but I know they do excellent work and are well positioned to help us find access to additional resources. We are going to hear next from Crystal Young-Otterstrom with the Utah Cultural Alliance, and we have some information for you about the survey. But before I turn it over to Crystal, a quick reminder for those of you who have mostly already heard, we will be having the Utah Cultural Alliance will be hosting a webinar with the Small Business Administration. We'll have the regional director to talk about, actually, I'll let you pitch a little further on that, Crystal.
Sure. Thank you so much, Wendy. And before I dive into that, I also want to thank everybody who works so hard on behalf of our cultural sector. It's always so wonderful to work with our friends at Heritage and Arts and Division of Arts and Museums. I can't speak today. It's always just wonderful to work with Vicki and Jill. So thank you so much. So yes, the webinar tomorrow at 10 a.m. we'll have our regional SBA directors. You can register on our website, utculture.org/events, and they will be talking about the very recently changed rules on forgiveness and how that will work. So everybody who received a PPP loan, highly recommend that you participate. And a couple of federal updates that I think I was supposed to make, and then I'll mention a couple of changes that we're working on with the survey. That our Congress is working now on the next wave of COVID relief. It's intended to be passed on a bipartisan level in the first 2 weeks of July. The details are still being worked out. We will have a letter soon that you can sign on to in support of the things that our cultural sector needs. And one of those issues that we think does impact cultural orgs in Utah more than some of us had thought originally. So if you're a nonprofit that has more than 4 employees and you are opting out of paying unemployment insurance on a quarterly or annual basis, they call that being self-insured. There was a change in the CARES Act that essentially means you'd have to pay 100% upfront for any unemployment costs incurred. You would get reimbursed 50%, which is what businesses typically pay out. And I just received notice of a bipartisan bill to address this issue. It's not numbered yet, but it's called Protecting Nonprofits from Catastrophic Cash Flow Strain Act. And so we'll be sending that out as well. And then the update on the survey is that we will be moving it to a new survey system so it can be a little more dynamic. We did it in Google Docs originally, so it would be easy for all of us collaborators to share the output. But we want to do a little more fancy number crunching. And so please watch for that link in the next couple weeks. It'll come from all of us. And we also will be asking you if this unemployment insurance impacts you and a couple of other new changes. And so it's very important that you take the survey again, even if you've taken it before, and update it every time your situation changes so that we can start tracking data over time would be great. And that's all I have on the survey. So thank you so much, everybody. Back to Wendy.
Thank you, Crystal. And before I say anything else, if you have questions for Vicki or Crystal, please pop them in the Q&A. We have a few minutes of time for questions with them, and then we'll move on to stories from the field with Paul Dourdan, which I'm very much looking forward to hearing more about. I can tell you that the surveys are important. Not only when you take it can you tell where you're benchmarked against the results that come in, but in terms of telling our story, especially to the legislature as we look at the impact on our sector of COVID-19. So please take it again, even though you've taken it before. A lot has changed since you have last taken it, even if you took it a week ago, as many of us have noticed how rapidly things are changing. We have a question that has come in for Vicki. Vicki, is the CARES grant available only for organizations with budgets over $5 million?
Yes, this particular pot of money is for those larger organizations. But it does free up monies in our general operating support program so that we can make sure that we take care of everyone else as well.
And I'm going to answer a question before it's answered. If you were admiring Crystal Young Otterstrom's background, that is not a Zoom background, that is her actual wallpaper. So there's one for free. Any further questions for Vicki or for Crystal? As you're thinking, a couple more quick updates. Again, remember that SBR webinar is tomorrow at 10 o'clock in the morning. And there is also a wonderful information coming in on Vicki's weekly emails, and the link for that is in your chat as well. We also have some additional news as we're looking out at the state and seeing what's happening. Hale Sandy and Hale Orem opened last weekend, and the Grand Theater will be opening this weekend. We're looking forward to seeing how their openings go and rooting for each other, to be sure. And on that note, as we continue to watch for any questions come in, we can probably pop those in at the end, but let's definitely hear from Paul Dourdan. Paul, we're so grateful that you're joining us today. Paul is the general manager for the Covey Center for the Arts in Provo, Utah. They have been hosting performances since about Memorial Day, if I'm right. And they have a marvelous facility that hosts like 2 art galleries, a 670-seat theater, a 70-seat black box, and 3 dance studios and a studio recital hall. So a place I'm sure at this time of year is much busier than it is this year at this time. Paul, take it away.
Thanks, Wendy. Here are stories from the field, and please excuse me if my voice starts to disappear. With the smoke down in Utah County, it takes my voice away, and so if it disappears, I'll keep going as long as I can. To give you a little bit of where we sit with the COVID situation, we actually opened our building on May the 12th. Hopefully this gives some hope to a lot of you. We didn't actually start with productions in here until the 26th of May, the day after Memorial Day. Since that time, we have had almost 15,000 people that have come through our facility. One of the things that I started doing as we were opening the building back up was to get in touch with the Utah County Health Department and find out how they track and trace those that have tested positive, and where they go and how they track it back. And with as many people as we've got passing through here, I check with them pretty much on a weekly basis, and at this point in time, we haven't had a single case tracked back to the Covey Center. To give you an idea of some of the things that we did in order to set our plan in place, basically we shut down our black box theater because it was too small. With the social distancing, our stage was only 8 feet away from our back wall, so we didn't have any way that we could open that back up again. The main hall, which has 670 seats in it, we had to pare down so that we can actually only put about a third of the audience in. Most of the, well, everything that's gone through here so far has been rental organizations, primarily dance studios. There have been a few plays that have come through. This upcoming week, we've got a group that will start into some concerts again. And we anticipate that we'll have probably 3,000, maybe 4,000 people will go through this week. The way that we set things up is we separated the backstage with the front of house, so that everybody that was backstage basically had to wear masks while they were off stage. But then when they went on stage, they took their masks off so that they could actually perform. This all came about when we moved to the yellow area of the state. And we found that there's not a whole lot of difference between orange, yellow, and green as far as actual live performances. So when the yellow opened up to allowing 3,000 people, the thing that we had to evaluate was, the biggest thing was how do we police masks? Because when you got people that are sitting right next to each other, that became the biggest issue was could we police masks on everybody? And the answer was no. We found that people were coming in, and we still have this problem. Some people wear masks, some don't. Some get very irate when you ask them to. All of our staff wears masks. We contacted all of our directors ahead of time, and we said, please, please, please put it out to your performers as well as your parents and patrons and anybody else that's going to be coming, that they please wear a mask. And like I say, some are heeding it, some aren't. We actually had a group this past week that performed on stage without masks, but when they took the curtain call, everybody came out in masks. Our studios are set up in such a way that we couldn't do a whole lot. At the start, we were streaming classes, and we streamed those until basically the end of the school year. And then once we hit summer and we started into productions, we tried to limit the number of people that were backstage and keep them as social distance as possible. In order to do that, we have 2 levels. Our studio space is upstairs. Our performance space is on the lower level. We actually shut down our studios and turned them into backstage area. And by making it a backstage area, we were able to take our social distancing and our number of people from about 50 to about 110. And that changed the dynamic of how performers and groups were performing in our facility. We had to talk to them about changing the way that they looked at things. One of the things that happens is that everybody has to have a ticket. So our box office became really, really good at playing Tetris. We social distance households. Every other row is open, and we stagger it through the hall so that even across the aisles there is 6 feet in between each household group. There's also 3 seats between each household group, and that's where the box office had to start learning to play Tetris in how many were going to be in the household and how many were being assigned by the different groups. We also found that based on how ticketing was done, the groups would change and the number of people that we could put into the hall changed. For example, one of the last groups we had in said that every one of their dancers could have 3 tickets per dancer. Well, when they did that, it limited us with the number of people that we could put in the hall, because we have it set up so that we don't have anybody climbing over the top of anybody else. But the group before that let us do the ticketing, and they allowed family households of up to 10 people to come in. And so on a row that has 14, we could put 10 people. When they assign the seats, we can only put 6. So we've had number in the hall of anywhere from 200 up to about 260, and it varies with every group that comes through. Theater groups have run into the same problem. Basically, that's kind of the gist of what we've done. The other thing that we have is we have all of our galleries open, and so we've had people that have come through with the galleries. I could probably talk a little bit more, but if there's questions, I'd be more than happy to take any questions, because I have been fielding them for weeks now.
So keep those questions coming, everybody. Paul, we did get a note from Crystal in the latest guidelines, and I think you may already know this, but I'm curious to know if you've changed anything. As long as Provo remains in yellow, you are allowed to fill every seat as long as all attendees are wearing masks. You mentioned it's been difficult you've determined that you can't really police the wearing of masks. Are you staying at a greater level of restriction for that reason?
We are. We made the determination that, and we've had groups that have asked us about lifting and being able to put in an entire audience. And the thing that I've taken back to those specific groups is, if you can help us figure out how to enforce everybody has a mask on, then we'll think about doing it. But that means that you also have to enforce it once they go into the hall, that they don't take them off. I haven't had any takers yet. And so we found the 6-foot distancing has been the easiest and the best for enforcement purposes. The biggest thing that we get is thank you that you're open.
Thank you that you're open and learning many of these lessons for us. Paul, we sure appreciate your stories from the field. Crystal, thank you for your update on the survey. We look forward to taking it again. And Vicki Borns, thank you for the update from the division. Grateful to hear about the progress on the CARES funding that has been approved. And Senator Adams, thank you for the funding, and thank you for the legislative update. It is so wonderful to be here with you. I look forward to these calls. I look forward to seeing the names of people I adore and whose wisdom I am tapping into as often as I can to navigate my way through this interesting adventure we find ourselves on. As a reminder, again, we will not have more meetings like this in July. We'll reconvene in August, and enjoy your July holidays in the meantime. Keep those questions coming. Keep letting us know what other topics you'd like to hear about, other updates you'd like, other needs you have, and we will see you in a month. Thank you, everybody. Goodbye.